Unit 6, Part 5 Notes. I can factor trinomials into two binomials. Part 2. So again, we're going to review multiplying binomials before we talk about factoring. And now this time, we're just going to add another layer onto this factoring piece. So when we multiply binomials, we have 2x plus 5 and 3x minus 4. And then we multiply. So we start by doing 2x times 3x, which is 6x squared. 2x times negative 4 gives us negative 8x. 5 times 3x is 15x. And then 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. And then we are going to combine our like terms. 15x and negative 8x is 7x. And then we write out our trinomial. We have 6x squared plus 7x minus 20. So when we first began factoring in part 4, we had just x squared. There was no number here. Now with this new set of notes, we are going to work on factoring when there is a number there. So it's going to add just a little bit of an extra step. Instead of just being able to look at that b and c value, we're going to have to use all three values. So with factoring trinomials with an a, b, and a c, we are going to truly work the process backwards. We are going to start by identifying our a, our b, and our c from this trinomial. So we have a, b, and c, 5, 19, and 12. The next step is to find the product of a and c. We're going to multiply a and c together, which is going to be 5 times 12, which is going to give us 60. And then we are going to list out the factors of AC. So very similar to last time when we listed out the factors of C, we're going to list out the factors of AC now. So the factors of 60, and we're going to pick the one that then adds to this B value of 19. So we have 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 15. And I can stop right there because I can see that 4 and 15 add up to 19. So 4 times 15 is going to be the factor pair that I use. Now, this is not going to be your final pair of factors like it was before. So we're not quite done yet. We're going to have a little bit of an extra step here. So we're going to use this factor box over here, and I'm going to set up our trinomial where we find our answer. We have 5x squared plus 19x, and then 12. So that's where we find our final answer. Now this 4 and 15 make that 19. So they're going to go here and here as our factors there. And it doesn't matter where you put either one, so I'm going to put 4x here, and I'm going to put 15x here. And now that we've completed the box, now we just need to know what multiplies to make those values. So we're going to start here in this upper box, 5x squared and 15x. We are going to go back to that greatest common factor. This is where everything that we've learned this unit is all coming together. So the greatest common factor of 5 and 15 would be 5. I can take 5 out of both of those. So I'm going to pull out a 5. And they can also take out an x. They both have an x, so we're going to take out one of those x's. So we have 5x. Now, to finish that, 5x times what gives me 5x squared? What would be left over is a 1x, because 5 times 1 is 5, and x times x is x squared. So we're just working that multiplication backwards. What times what gives me 5x squared? And then same thing for this 15x over here. 5 times what gives me 15? 5 times 3, and we already took away that x. So we're using that greatest common factor. And then now for the bottom one, we just need this one final number here of what would complete this multiplication problem. So 1x times what gives me 4x? Well, 1 times 4 gives me 4, and then there's already the x pulled out. X times nothing gives me that x. And then 3 times 4 gives me 12. So that does check off that box right there. That does make sense. So now we just have to write out our factors. We have 5x. It's a positive 4, so I'm going to put plus 4. And then 1x plus 3. And that is how you factor trinomials with that a value there. That's not a 1. All right, I know that that's a lot. So we are going to do 2 more together. We're going to really make sure that we understand this process. So again, when we factor a trinomial, we have our trinomial. So actually, I'm going to just start by putting that trinomial in our box, get it all set up for us, make sure we're ready. And then we're going to take those a, b, and c values. And then we're going to find the product of a and c. We're going to take 3 times 4, multiply that together, 3 times 4, which is 12. Now we're going to list out those factors of 12. We're going to list those out. 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. And because our b is negative, but our c is positive, all of these values are going to be negative. We have all of them negative. So now which pair adds to b, adds to make that negative 8? That's going to be negative 2 and negative 6. So again, I'm going to put those into my box. Negative 2x, negative 6x. And now that we've completed the box, we just need to find that greatest common factor. So here, if we look at 3x squared and negative 6x, we can take a 3 out of both of those and an x out of both of those. So 3x times 1x would give me 3x squared, and 3x times negative 2 would give me negative 6x. So we're just working that multiplication backwards. All right, and then that last piece is pulling out the greatest common factor of negative 2 and 4, which is going to be negative 2. And it does need to be the negative 2 because up here we have negative 2. And to make a positive 4, it does need to be multiplied by a negative 2. So now we can write out our factors. We have 3x minus 2 and 1x minus 2. So the factors are right there, and that would be how we factor that trinomial. All right, we'll do one more example here. So we have our trinomial. 4x squared minus 15x minus 25. And then we'll identify our a, 4, our b, negative 15, and our c, negative 25. And then we'll find the product of a and c. We'll multiply 4 times negative 25, which gives us negative 100. Now, reminder, when both b and c are negative, one of the numbers is going to be negative for our factors, and one's going to be positive. So we'll have a positive number and we'll have a negative number. So we could put 1 in 100. That doesn't add to 15, because remember, we want the one that's going to add up to make negative 15. So we have like 2 and 50. That's not going to make negative 15. We also have 4 and 25, which we already used to make this negative 100, but that doesn't make negative 15. We have 5 and 20. 5 and 20 do make 15, and if the 20 is negative, it will make that negative 15. So we're going to use 5 and 20 as our two values that make negative 15x. They combine to make that negative 15 there. And now we are going to do our greatest common factor. So 4x squared and negative 20x, what's our greatest common factor? 4 does go into both of those. So 4x, 4 times 1 makes 4, x times x makes x squared. 4 times negative 5 makes negative 20, and we already have the x here. All right, and then we do the same thing for our bottom. We pull out that greatest common factor, 5 and negative 25. Greatest common factor would be 5. And we are going to keep it positive because 5 times 1 is 5, and 5 times negative 5 gives us this negative 25. And then we just write out our factors together, 4x plus 5, and then 1x minus 5. So I know it's a bit of a longer process, but it does work for each problem. So go ahead and attempt the practice problems. There's only 6 of them for you to do, and then once you've done all 6 of them, you can complete your check-in on Schoology.